All right, so we are recording. We're live. Look, this is Ask Us Anything, okay, about research. Clinical research coordinator, associate, site owner. Did you guys hear? Thanks to Judy, I heard about the site owner, the site in Florida that got basically raided by the Department of Justice. And they turned two of their coordinators in for fraud. And then the coordinators took a plea bargain to tell the full story. That's drama right there. That's like basically making up patients. And Judy was asking like, how is this even possible? Well, Judy, I guess there's a lot of things that are possible, but it doesn't do anything to help Florida. Florida already has a bad reputation from sites. There's a lot of good sites in Florida, but unfortunately, this kind of stuff tends to happen a lot over there. And yeah, well, I mean, what do you guys think about this? What do you think, Judy? You're the one who brought it up. Like, you're surprised?
Yeah, because there's a lot of oversight in clinical research, the sponsor side, CRO side, all those people that are looking at everything. I mean, how did it get this far? I guess, did everybody drop the ball? Nobody was looking at the stuff in detail. I mean, like there should have been lots of areas where this should have been brought up way sooner before you even got to that point.
Yeah, I think I did a podcast with Chris on it today, and I was saying like maybe we don't know the details, but maybe the unsung hero could be the CRA who discovered this. Because one of the ways you can discover it all is if you actually look at blood samples, like the lab results, and then you see, okay, these ones look similar, and now these ones look similar, and pretty soon you're like, what's going on here? I mean, it still takes like I guess a observant CRA to find it. So
no, but the lab results are going to a central lab. Somebody's reviewing the data behind the scenes. That's what I'm saying. Like that the sponsor, like whoever is the one that's responsible, I'm thinking that should have been caught too, right? Not the C. I mean, that's great if it was a CRA. I don't know the details. This was like a little short article we read about, so it wasn't much in there.
I don't disagree with that, Judy, but they're not probably comparing at sponsor level patient to patient. Well, I guess they might be looking for specifics, like things they're concerned with. But comparing specifically every lab to every lab for all the different values, it's not something I envision that they do, though they may.
Well, they've done it for studies we worked on.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's been brought up various values, visit to visit, and questions and stuff. So that's why I'm just, I figured there was a lot of things in place to prevent this from happening, but I don't know. We don't know the details.
Would be interesting to find those details.
All right, trying to get fired on night two. It just started raining. Just making some quick feather sticks.
Somebody has something to say, or is that accidental? Hold on.
I think, yeah.
Hey, Teresa Smith. Wait, it's been a while since I've done this. I'm slow. All right, here we go. I got it faster. It's been a while since I've been having to mute people. All right. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it'd be nice. We'll never know the details in regards to that. So anything else? What's exciting people these days? CRC Academy, how's it going, Monica? Aren't you supposed to be teaching a CRC Academy right now?
No, now it's Mondays at 4 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The previous class finished last Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
They have this week off, and then we start the internship next week.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. So now that we're talking about everything, I was one professional. He is a doctor from overseas. He's been applying to different jobs, and he pointed out something that was quite interesting. And he was mentioning that he has seen in different companies that they have, I mean, obviously diversity has become a very important part of research, and basically every single industry now is advocating for diversity, right? But in research is very important, as we know. And he was mentioning that many organizations have, for example, for African Americans, a specific job opportunities or like job fairs for this minority group, right? But there is nobody has yet done anything for Hispanics or for Latinos. And I would like to mention that right here, many of the sponsors are hopefully, a lot of them seen this video and bring this to the table, because there is not organization offering job fair for Latinos. So any comments about that?
Apparently nobody. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
that's what I see.
So what, but what, who would be the beneficiary of doing this?
So, I mean, the pharmaceuticals, if they want to bring diversity on their, job workforce, and they are doing it already for African Americans, why they don't do it also for Latinos or for other minorities? Like, I mean, the largest minority in United States are Hispanics. Why is this not happening?
Yeah, so we've been in talk to some sponsors. I mean, they're interested in this, but I don't know, it doesn't seem like the desire and the actions match up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, everybody talks, but nobody really is doing anything about it. So I think that's something that we need to start thinking about it. Why is not the Hispanic community being taken into account in this kind of affairs?
Yeah, it would, I guess, be nice if we had more of a sponsor representative or somebody to talk more about like what goes into their job fairs. What do they, when they focus on specific, backgrounds, diversity targets, how do they decide that, to give us more of an insight, right, on how all that works.
So what else is new in the industry? You guys seeing, well, Ashley's getting on in a bit, but as far as CRO activity hiring, sites hiring, I know a lot of our members, when we started this group in 2020, a lot of the members back then that were looking for jobs, most of them got hired. And actually, a lot of them are on their second or third job already. So we've been seeing the industry still busy at the site level too. There's a lot of studies out there for sites. A lot of activity despite this recession talk. And so has anyone noticed a slowdown? I'm just curious if anyone has noticed in any segment of this industry a slowdown. I would imagine maybe phase ones.
No, I haven't, but I've read comments here and there about certain jobs or areas where maybe they were holding back on hiring, but it seems pretty busy. Same as last year.
Yeah, we have two coordinators, and I mean, now that I'm working at the site level again, it's bringing back all these inefficiencies that I see. Like one example, today I had a patient texting me because they're supposed to do this breath test, and they can do it at home. And then they FedEx it. We give them the air bill and they FedEx it. We pre-label everything. And the vendor's losing everyone's lab kits. And then the vendor is saying they don't have it. Where's the tracking number? And now the patient's like, luckily they kept it. And then they found it. But it's like they talk about patient centricity and doing all this decentralized stuff. And they can't even manage like some simple thing like this. Imagine an entire study like done out of a box, which is kind of big pharma's goal for the industry. I mean, eventually it's going to happen, like the convenience thing, but I don't know. There's too many vendors for it to happen cohesively, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's aspects that are going to change, but not the whole thing. And it still requires the site staff. Look at, you just talked about the patient texting you. you had to probably look into it, and then eventually, like, you guys figured it out. But how many people did it involve to get to that answer?
Oh, we
right?
had a patient quit. We had one patient. This is the second that I'm aware of where they lost their kit, and the patient doesn't want to do it again, so they quit. So that's like, I don't know what value that is to the drug company, but a randomized patient is, I would say, pretty valuable, no matter what study you're doing, like to get that data. So that's their that's a case where like convenience maybe that's supposed to make things easier for the patients actually making it much worse.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan. I think that's why the sites are so important, because imagine if it's difficult sometimes to manage sites that know what they are doing, imagine how it is managing patients that is the first time, or I mean, even if they are professional patients, which nobody wants one of those patients, right? But it could happen. They don't know what they are doing because each study is totally different. So they need to still re-educate the patients. I think the sites are extremely valuable, extremely needed, and obviously is a key factor in research.
And it's the best, I think it's the best place for people to start their careers or even end their careers or anywhere in between. I mean, I know some CRAs who got sick of traveling and prefer to work at site level again, even though it's usually a pay cut. So we'll open it up for questions from anybody. If you're on mute, just unmute, ask, type, discuss anything at all, career related, how to network. We're always looking for ways to make networking better for us, not just for Latinos, for everyone in this industry. This group is open to everybody in the industry. And our ultimate outcome is to increase minority participation in clinical research. So somebody raised their hand, but they put it down.
Yes.
Did I miss you?
It's the Dr. PTP.
Yeah, it's me.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's a good. So first I'm going to introduce you myself. I am just coming to US as an immigrant, and I did my family practice for 16 years in India. And right now I'm working as a operating manager in urgent care, but I'm interested in work with the clinical research. So what is the pathway for me to do the same thing?
All right. Does your urgent care do research? That might be
No.
too obvious. Okay. I
No.
figured no. So 2 routes. There are urgent cares that do research out there. Where are you located?
Atlanta.
Okay, for sure there's urgent cares doing research in Atlanta. The second route is more ambitious, but you can bring the idea of doing the research to your urgent care and talk to the management there about doing it, and then figure out how to bring the studies there. And then you could be the coordinator and then ultimately director. And that's good because from there, you basically create your own job. You're like an intrapreneur. You're like acting like an entrepreneur, but you're just not putting up your own money, but you're putting your time and effort. So those are the 2 options. If I were you, that's what I would do. One of those 2. Find an urgent care in your area that does research. There's tons. Or bring the opportunity to you for the more ambitious amongst yourselves. That's like a more exciting way to do it. And who knows, like it might be more lucrative too.
Yeah, but I have doesn't any experience regarding clinical coordination and everything, but I know all these clinical things and what is happening. But
Yeah,
how to put in the system, and I look your most of YouTube videos and everything, and I am interested. This is the interesting field, so I can get it in. If
bring it to them, man. Like you seem like a go-getter. Like talk to them tomorrow about it.
And
Say, look,
just
we have to do research.
so sorry to interrupt that.
Oh, go
Sorry.
ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
And if there were to be a scenario where you bring this to your management and they say, hey, well, sounds great. Numbers and figures sound great, but how can we ensure that you have the background, you have the knowledge set? Well, if you can't negotiate them on that end, We also have, an option. We created a research university for this reason. So you are previously or currently practicing clinician. We have the PIs clinicians in Clinical Research College, where we help certify you in that aspect, and so that you could also do that, or tell them, hey, if you feel like you need more I should say more foundation, say, well, sponsor me, let me take this course so that I can bring it to you and say, hey, I have it now, let's do it. I can train other people, let's do it, right? So there's
Man.
there's a bunch of different resources out there. It's just, if you're willing to find it. And then again, I also feel like when you get the first no, it's not a failure or an official no. I think it's a way to negotiate and see what is it that they're missing from you in order to be able to give you the yes, right? So it's constantly going and trying to figure out what it is that you're needing, as opposed to just hearing no or hearing, well, maybe. Just always trying to figure out a way around, right?
Okay, okay.
I love
Okay.
having Monica and Ashley. Oh my gosh, like the sales pitch is so good, Ashley. But yeah, that's like the route. That's the route I would go to. But obviously, our academies would help you. Like then they could sponsor you. But seriously, man, if you're an IMG, like you're a doctor, you could figure it out. It's at the end of the day, it's just following the protocol and following good clinical practice, and start with one study. The good
Mhm.
thing of you doing it this way is you don't need to risk like starting your own site. They have profits, so they can invest, and you just have to sell them on the idea.
Yeah.
You have the book, this book, or from the 5-hour video.
No, I don't have.
Okay, well, just message me your address. I'll send you one tomorrow, and then
Hmm.
read it, and then go talk to them about it and set that up. Set that up ASAP.
Okay,
Or
okay.
or the easier way is to go to a competitor urgent care that is doing research and work with them. Atlanta's huge, so I know they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Was
Okay,
this
okay.
also a scenario where you're trying to create something on your own, or you're just trying to get into the industry?
No, I want to first get into the industry.
Okay, so with your background as a clinician, especially if you have any hospital experience, because I know that right now a lot of CROs and sponsors that are opening a gateway or pathway for clinicians, they're looking more specifically for ones that actually have particular hospital experience. So if you have that exposure or urgent care, what I would suggest, specifically for PIs or previous clinicians, is reach out to a recruiter. Now I know for those that don't have clinical background or aren't licensed clinicians, sometimes what happens is, when they reach out, they don't necessarily respond as quickly, but for those that are licensed or that have background licensing, they respond very fast. So I would recommend you going to sponsor CRO recruiters. Very easy, find them on LinkedIn and then look for recruiters in the highlight, and then say, hey, I am, I have this much background, here's my resume. I really want to get into the research industry. I have a lot of hospital experience. What can I do to help you help me, kind of a thing, right?
See,
So
Yeah.
doctor, the world is your
Yeah.
oyster. You have too
Yeah,
many
we-
options. That options, I like it because it's gonna work, but I feel sorry for the urgent care because they're not gonna do research.
yeah, I mean, that
so
is
but
the better option, I
actually,
think.
Beatrice just put a post. She says we have an emergency department at Children's Healthcare or Atlanta, so there are units doing it, even if it's emergency department. They do this research various types. Thank you,
Mhm.
Beatrice.
Thank you,
So,
Beatrice.
yeah.
There you go, doctor. You connect with Beatrice right now. She's probably on LinkedIn.
It's an emergency department in child. It's where
Yeah,
it's
Children's
located.
Health Emergency Department at Children's Healthcare. There are units doing it, even if it's emergency department. They do there's a lot of emergency research too. And the good
Mhm.
thing about urgent care is you don't have to only do emergency research at urgent care. You can do traditional outpatient stuff too.
Yeah.
You got too many options, doctor. Not too little. Too many is your problem. Maybe I'm gonna take the book back, man. You don't need it.
Awesome. So I know I jumped in a little bit late. Apologies, everybody. But so what was the starting topic? I know that we started asking questions, or was there something that got the conversation rolling?
Yeah, the start was fraud in research, but that wasn't so interesting. The Ifiani, my question is, why is it a challenge for a Black IMG? So another international medical graduate with multiple clinical research training in the US and clinical research experience in Africa to gain experience into the, it's tough for everybody and it sucks because I know, and Beatrice, you'll be next. Thank you for raising your hand. Maybe this is like a good system Zoom thought about, raising the hand. But it's tough for everybody, but it's
Mhm.
actually easier for IMG. And like Ashley just said, you know, you're an IMG as well. Just take her advice. Go to CRO, contact Ashley, contact everybody on this LinkedIn, contact every site in your area. Go like in person, hand your CV. There's still a labor shortage in research. I know other industries are drying up, but we're not doing mortgage. We're doing research.
And
I
if you
think-
have interest on a particular, sorry,
No, come on.
actually, if you have interest on a particular therapeutic area, you can also go to the clinicaltrials.gov, type that specific therapeutic area or condition, and look for the studies, the industry studies that have listed the sites, and you can actually reach out to the sites specifically that have that therapeutic area.
Yeah, and I actually would recommend that for foreign medical graduates instead, to see if you could probably get in easier with the site level. You would be a good coordinator, even, you know, can move up from there. I know at our site, because we do psych CNS, I'm trying to get a few approved as a rater on a lot of the diagnostic and, you know, rater questionnaires, because they have that medical background, but they're new to research. So I think that's a place where I can get them started and trained on. So it just depends at the site level what therapeutic area. There's a lot of things that we at the site level can try to do with a foreign medical graduate if they really want to bring them on and need the staff.
Yeah,
It's
to
too
pick-
easy for IMGs, too easy.
Agree. And to piggyback on what Judy just said, I do believe that site level is much, much easier because of the processing. I know that with CROs or sponsors, sometimes the scenario, not always, but sometimes the scenario is that when you have an individual who, let's medical license background, yes, they come with all that knowledge, but the thing is, it's a different type, I guess you could say, thinking perspective as to how you're going to approach certain aspects when it comes to the clinical background and to the research clinical. And so what I feel sometimes may happen is that they feel like they have to train a certain way or train longer or things like that, depending on what, you know, how they're trying, where they're going to be directing you as far as the position that you're going in for. And so because as you know, going into for a CRC at site level, you're getting the full exposure and it's still very much the same setting, right? As opposed to when you're going to sponsor level, a lot of times you're going to be a monitor. So you have to take your you know, you say your medical goggles from site perspective as a, you know, clinic, as a physician at a site or as a clinic at a clinic, and be now a monitor perspective and kind of think a little bit more outside the box. So I
Yeah,
think it's way easier going
Mhm.
through the site level because you still have the same, you know, same perspective, same scenario and everything. And then at that point, you get exposure to what monitors actually do. And if you feel that's something that you want, definitely go that route, right?
just a few months ago, and I'm sure Judy was in this situation at one point too. Like as a site owner, I had no employees just a few months ago. It was just me and a few business partner and my wife. I was putting ads. I was asking every single MA in the office, do you have any friends? Have them come interview, because my PI told me not to hire any of his staff. So I asked them, you have any friends? I literally was at the point I would have hired anybody who walked in the door to interview. Nobody did. Okay, now I have two people. I'm very happy with them now. In hindsight, maybe it was blessing in disguise. I have two very good ones, but there's so many sites like that in that situation. You've just never heard of them because you haven't Googled it. So just Google it.
Yeah, and
Or go
sorry.
to global clinicaltrials.gov.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as a site, we have these bumps. Like sometimes we have enough staff, sometimes we don't, sometimes we do, and you never know when you might go to that site who's actually looking to hire or was about
Yeah.
to post that ad and was like, oh my gosh, you know, we'll just train you and bring you on board.
Or just go
Um,
every day. They'll get
yeah.
until they get tired of you and they'll hire you just to have you stop bugging them.
We
And then,
actually
like,
had somebody in the past like
That's a
that.
great.
Sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I think that's a great point, because I think one of the things that we hear a lot is, you know, the whole talk about diversity in clinical research and in general, how we need to have more of the staff look and feel and represent the communities to get more of the diverse patient population. But there are also studies that find that if you don't have all of the criteria, or you don't meet all of the I don't want to say rules, but like the desires on the job posting, a lot of folks are inclined to not even approach the job at all. So from your perspective, do you think it is important for folks, even if they don't meet all of the criteria, to even still take the leap? You know, if they don't have all the experience, just to put themselves out
Yes.
there and not be afraid to, because we may not have, right, the experience that others do, but we just networking and taking the first step, this first leap, I think, is the first start. So I would love for you guys to opine on that.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say something on that. I think 100%. So on the side, what I do with my clients when I help them with their resume or their mock interviews and things like that, I use myself as a perfect example, as well as multiple of my other clients that have gotten positions. So for me, I only had about 1 year experience before jumping straight into the CRO. And even at that, I wasn't a clinical research coordinator. I was a medical assistant / medical transcriptionist. I barely had any exposure to direct, patient contact with research or anything like that. I just kind of assisted on the side in a hybrid clinic. The thing is, though, what I did was I Googled research, right? I looked up Dan. I got a deep dive about, I would say, 3 days full straight of heavy research, got a full understanding of the difference and the correlation between the clinical, site perspective, and then what research and how it differentiated and how it was different, the same. And so I was very thoughtful about, okay, how do my skill sets that I currently have transition into this industry, which I tell everybody all the time, it doesn't matter where you come from, your background, all these skill sets, whether it's data entry, quality assurance, customer care, all these things that are very basic and at the very foundation of the most starter positions in any industry, can transition over. The thing is, it comes down to your confidence, how well you can sell it, right? And how well you can, speak to the person about, hey, yes, I only have this, but I can easily do this based off of this, right? Like, you have to give examples. I think that's one of the biggest, issues is, right, is like you have these people that have really great resumes and a lot of great background experience. I had a client who was a clinical research coordinator for, I'd say, about 20 years. She could never move up into the CRO, never move up. And she did multiple interviews, things like that. And so finally, when I did, about 2 breakdowns with her in a mock trial, it was very clear that she wasn't being able to, you know, clearly define how she was able to take her skill set from this level to the next and do it accurately with training, right? And so, and that happens. And then you have people like me that just, I talk very well. Well, I feel I talk very well and I get my point across. So, I had barely any experience and I jumped straight into CRO, right? And that happens. I have other clients that have done that too. And so again, it's just utilizing your resources, coming to, our webinars, getting some information, going to other webinars, getting that exposure, and being very clear about the strengths that you come with, right? And coming to the interview and being forward with what you can do and what you want to bring in, like your goals in that role. And then that goes again to where you're talking about diversity, Cassandra. I think that for those types of individuals, definitely going at site level, because a lot of the times, especially in rural areas, you will find that the coordinators, medical office, medical managers or office managers, whatever, a lot of them come from the ground up, right? They'll start as an MA or, front desk secretary, and they just literally work their way up in those clinics and or those offices. So if you can show the passion and you can show your the fortitude you have and what you're bringing to the table, you can really have somebody give you that opportunity. My first job in a hybrid clinic, I had no clinic experience, and I actually offered a week's worth of work free of pay so that they could test me out and see how fast I worked, right? They saw it, they gave me within 3 or 4 days, and I got hired, right? And so again, it's just, what are you willing to do? How are you standing out, right? And making sure that that person really sees you, right? Because a lot of the time I feel people are nervous when they come forward and they're like, well, I don't have what it takes. everybody does, right? Especially for those that really want it. It's just, how are you doing it, right? Sorry, long rant.
Let's cut to Beatrice. Beatrice been patiently waiting with the hand raised.
Hey guys, good evening. Thank you for having me. My question is more on building and maintaining relationships. I do work at the site level currently, and I just want some advice on how to create a good flow of things with monitors that come. Just yeah. How do you maintain those good relationships and don't feel like someone is stabbing you in the back with reports?
Well, don't do that. I guess one of the things I'm lucky that I was able to be a contract CRA for like 4 years on a part-time basis. So my perspective changed a lot doing that. If you can make their job easier in any scale, like just take their difficulty down even a half a percentage point or whatever you can do, you're gonna make a lasting impact on that person. And that's like your network for life, basically. And if you just keep doing that for all the CRAs that come through at your site, I mean, you're going to build a great networking for you just within your own site. So anything you can do, you'd be amazed at the sites I went to, like especially the big academic medical center. As a CRA, I went in there. They don't really treat you well. Like they just put you in a room. Nobody comes to check on you. If you have questions, you email them. Imagine you're emailing them when you're at the site, and so they're not answering you till you leave. So if you could like make their life easier, helping them get their action items done, or maybe they can't contact somebody at the site, you go out of your way to do it. That's probably the best thing you can do, like most impactful. If it comes to like your own colleagues, I'm not sure because I don't know what the culture there, but that's my advice for like external, like dealing with monitors and such.
I
No,
don't mind.
that's good advice.
From a monitor perspective, when I deal with sites that, I mean, there's different types of sites. There's the sites that, are just very flowy, everything's great. And then you have the ones that are difficult, as in, you actually get kickback and they're like not just complying at all. And then you have the sites that are difficult in the sense that they're short staffed, there's a lot expected of them on all ends, and they're just falling behind on things like that, right? So if it were to be a scenario where, let's say your site or coordinator and it's that scenario that you're pretty much overworked, you have a lot of stuff going on and you can't seem to keep up. What I personally love to work with a site that I keep the good communication with is when they say, hey, look, this is what's going on. We're short-staffed, XYZ, and I know I have a lot, and this is probably messing with your metrics at your CRO or sponsor. However, I want to do what I can to help you. So is there a way, or are there steps we could do to where we can work on what's priority, right? Maybe like 4 or 5 things or 3 things. And then from there, we'll kind of work at that pace, right? And then eventually get to that point. Sites that are like that are always the ones that like we appreciate the most, because we on our end also fully understand that there's just so much to do all the time. I mean, me literally, if I put my mind to it, I could literally be busy from 5, 6 a.m. all the way till 7, 8 p.m. with how much work there's constantly rolling in as a monitor, right? And imagine as a CRA actually having to travel on top of that. So, and I'm remote, so I don't even know that extent of stress that they go through. So yeah, like what Dan said, as well as what I said, just finding ways to work around and just always working together.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Very helpful.
Roger Iglesias, how's it going? Thank you for hand raising. Maybe this is good for the future.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to ask you, Dan, so I'm based here in Miami, so and I'm planning on creating or opening a research here with my dad. So how can I differentiate myself from other competitors here that are more established?
It's gonna be your patients. So if your patients are being seen by your dad's practice, right? I remember interviewing you now, but it's been a while. He has private practice?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's your differentiating factor, and really like sponsors. Miami is like almost radioactive for sponsors these days. Like we just opened this podcast with, or this webinar with a story about a site in Miami that was doing fraud. Like there's a lot of that reputation built into Miami. So the more you can do to alleviate their concerns, like we have real patients. This is a real doctor's office. Those things go a long way in a place like Miami. It's internal medicine, right? Family practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really good because you have diversity of therapeutic indications that you guys see. So in short, it's your patients and your dad's involvement with them. And the long answer you don't want to hear is it's going to be a lot harder for you than if you were anywhere else in the country. That's just like honest advice. And it doesn't seem like you want to move from Miami. I don't blame you. But it's going to be tougher for you to get studies there. But that is, at the end of the day, they need patients. And they need research naive patients, which is a really important thing in Miami. It's a problem. The recycled patients in Miami, there's a lot of like negative connotations associated with research in Miami. So the closer you can get to like actual clinical care, and that's like your messaging to the sponsors, the better. Because the last thing we need in Miami is another research site, right? Like we do not need that. But what we do need are real patients in Miami seen by a real clinic and not some fraudulent like hole in the wall place that you can't tell, what it is.
Right. Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
I would
Yeah.
just add add on to what Dan was saying there. Also, something to keep in mind is Dan and I have a number of clients throughout the country, and two of our most successful clients are in Florida, greater Miami area. So it may be a little bit more competitive and difficult to get started, but you can do quite well in Florida.
They're the proof that it can be done, because if you do good research there, they'll come back to you. Miami's a huge growing area of the country. Like it's going to become increasingly more important. And I think a lot of these fraudulent sites are going to get weeded out. Thuy was asking about it. It's on my YouTube channel, Thuy, the latest video. It's like all about that that site in Miami that got basically like half their staff, if not all of them, go to prison soon. It's on my YouTube channel.
That's heavy.
Department of Justice, guys, they're not the FDA. All right, they don't send you a report.
They just show up.
They'll hit you upside the head with their gun.
Oh my gosh.
They don't mess around.
Yeah, I think there's like memes that say everything happens in Florida, everything happens in Miami, right? All the crazy stuff happening.
Yeah, especially in research.
Yeah.
But really, Roger, that's the answer, man. It's like the closer you can get to like patient care, this is what we already do with or without research. It would just be great to add research to it, and if you can do the underserved angle, Latino, like if it's predominantly Latino. I don't know the nature of the practice, but I imagine in Miami it's like heavily Latino.
No, yeah, for sure. No, I can't get more Latino than yeah.
But there's
And the
also
beauty of
Oh, I can.
I was just gonna say there's also a strong Haitian Creole population too that you guys should look into, which could be a differentiator for you all as well.
And I think the beauty of Miami or Florida is that the community is prone to participate in studies. Everybody's more open to it than probably any other state.
Yep. Okay, we got Agnes with a raised hand. How's it going, Agnes?
Hi, Dan. Doing okay. Calling you from Texas. I just wanted to know what is the overview in Texas right now regarding clinics? A couple of us trained and we're thinking of getting active.
Depends where. I mean, Houston's one of the busiest Houston's one of the most saturated markets for research sites in the country. It's probably on the same scale as LA. It's not as bad as
Okay.
Miami, but it's there. Probably with
We're in
Atlanta.
Dallas,
Dallas
the
is,
Arlington, Dallas, Fort Worth area.
yeah, it's a little less competitive, but still pretty competitive, but not as bad as Houston. So are you thinking of starting a site, or you want to work at a site, or what's the outcome? The
We
desired
just
outcome.
don't know even how to get the jobs and get some hands-on experience. But if it were possible, we would have preferred to just pull together and start a site with your support.
Yeah, I mean, those are two very different things, but both are possible. One's gonna be a lot more work. That's starting the site. I think, what's your background?
I'm in nursing, and the other guy who I introduced, Michael, is a nurse too. So we're in the
I
health
mean,
field.
Ashley, there's CROs willing to hire nurses right now.
Yeah, well, feel
Okay.
free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, and if you want, I can definitely submit your resume internally.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're very welcome. That goes for anybody here too.
And if that doesn't work, small site in your area, just go show up. Say, I'm Agnes. I have a nursing background. I learned about research from Latinos in clinical research, and I'm here to help in any way you need me. And that's it. Just do
This
that like
gonna-
20 times.
This is gonna sound advertisement.
Well, I love it. I love it.
But it's the truth. I mean, if you don't want to wait until, waste a lot of time trying to get into, you can always join the CRC Academy or the CRA Academy or the Clinicians Academy and speed up that part, so that way you can put that in your CV, in your resume, because when you're showing the sponsors or the organizations that you are investing in your own education and investing obviously time and money, that also shows a lot, because oftentimes the companies hire people with clinical background, but once they start working in research, they just realize that they don't really like research as they thought they would. And if they are already coming with some research background, they already showing that they actually like research and they understand research.
It's a great point, Monica. Yeah, it's very true that it's because people don't realize that when you're going through the training process, that's also costing the CRO and all them time and money, and also from those that are already trained, that are working, that are overseeing and helping train you as a newcomer, right? So they're investing a lot, hoping that you make it through the 90-day period. And it is very true. A lot of even clinicians, they don't know what to expect. They think that because it's similar to the clinical industry, but when you're talking monitor wise, it's very different, and even sometimes CRC wise, right? There's a lot of things that go into it, not just knowing the clinical background, and so having that experience and exposure is really huge. And even more so, what I think is really amazing about the CRC CRA Academy is that they have the internships. There are no other academies out there that offer the internships, and you get that experience, right? And so you can actually, and it's remote, and you get to talk about that in your interview, and that's big, because that's what they want. They don't want to just hear that you know the knowledge. They want to know that you have actual experience, and so that's where it's helpful, I think, very much.
Dr. Chukwuma, thank you for raising your hand and being patient. Welcome.
Thank you, Dan. My question is this. I'm wondering, I want to know how much you know about the medical monitoring role, and how an IMG can get there. It's do you have to be board certified to be a medical monitor? Because I've asked someone this question, someone I know, and he told me that he actually grew from the ranks, in his company, and today he's a medical monitor and he isn't board certified. I want to doubt him, but I want to use this opportunity to ask if, in your experience, if he could actually be telling the truth, or if you really have to be board certified to be
Well,
a medical
well,
monitor.
well, doctor, the
He
good
said-
news for you is we interviewed a lady on this.
Okay.
She's a IMG
Yeah.
from Mexico.
Mexico.
I'm trying to find the
Mhm.
video right now so I can put in the chat. So you don't
I
even
was
need
gonna
to worry
mention
about
that
my
too.
opinion. Yeah, our opinion doesn't even matter. It's somebody who did it. It's not, so that's proof that it's possible. Now, the way she did it
Oh, wow.
is she went the study coordinator route. And the way she explained it is because the reason they're doing that, it's kind of a recently new thing. It's just the labor shortage. Like there's too much supply of study, not enough workers. So they made an exception for her. There's nowhere in the FDA guidance that says medical monitor needs to be licensed in the United States. If you're licensed somewhere else and you live in the United States, I mean, it shouldn't matter. Most of these studies are international studies anyways. So I'm trying to find that video. But yeah, Monica or Ashley or Judy, you guys wanted to add something?
I mean, I don't
that-
know specifics, but I do know that, you know, for me personally with, you know, where I work, and I don't personally like to say, you know, names or anything, but where I work, I know that should you like to move forward in any position in your job, you can definitely move up the ranks. So I don't find it odd that your friends stated that, because I mean, anything is possible when you are with the CRO or sponsor, because they really want to keep you in-house. And sometimes, you know, to keep people in-house and happy, it's you're allowing them to expand and grow their knowledge set. And especially from somebody that's, you know, starting from monitor all the way to project monitor and then going into medical monitor. I mean, I don't see why that is not possible. But again, I'm not fully qualified to say yes or no, but so definitely watch the video.
Yeah,
That's
it's
why
right
Dan
here.
and we do those recordings, because it's really great to hear from those from the actual industry that are doing it.
Your friend is a very good friend. I just put in the chat and he's probably subscribed to Latinos in Clinical Research and to Dan's Fair YouTube channel. So make sure you do the same. But there's the link right there. You don't need to hear it from us anymore. You just hear it from someone who did it. And she's one of many. It's just the one that we happen to interview.
Thank you very much. This helps.
Yeah, man, good luck. You can do it. I think the coordinator route is the most practical way to go about it.
All right. Thank you.
We
Tui?
have someone with the hand raised.
Yeah, thank you,
Tui.
Thui.
Hey, Dan, I have a question. I manage a ophthalmology site in Georgia, and when I give my coordinators regulatory stuff to do, the FDA 1572 form has not been updated this year, and that's okay, right?
Yeah, I noticed this too. One of my employees brought that up. Anyone could Google a 1572 form right now. It's expired. So every
Right.
study has an expired 1572 form. The FDA released a guidance on this. I don't remember what they said, but basically they said it's okay.
So we just continue to use it until they
Yeah.
make a fresh one.
I find it rather odd too, but I think COVID, or they blame it on COVID, or they blame it on the labor shortage. Who knows? Somebody can't change the date.
And then also I had another question. I have a friend that he has his health sciences degree, and he only did about 3 years as a clinical research coordinator, and now he's moving, and he's trying so hard to get like a beginner CRA position in another state, but I guess he'll get like decline letters saying he doesn't have enough experience. So what can he do to kind of get a foot in the door in the CRA route?
Does your friend has bachelor's?
Yes.
It's just not applying enough. It's applying to the roles that he's probably not gonna get. So like he needs to go for the ones that are lesser known, like remote site monitor. I mean, this girl right here to my right has it. Well, at least that's where Ashley shows up on my screen. But
in my screen, she's on my right.
I know.
She's somewhere around here. But remote site monitor, in-house CRA, clinical trial assistant. To be a CRA, just get at the CRO level. and it won't take long before they offer you, if you do like a moderately good job, CRA role in the next year. So he's just probably, I mean, he could get lucky and get a CRA role. Another thing he can do is network with his former monitors if he left them on good terms.
Yeah.
Um,
And like the monitors was telling us, it's like he should reach out to the bigger CRO companies, like the
Yeah.
well-known ones. But they're the ones that I guess they're looking more for like senior CRA than
Yeah.
entry level.
the
So
bigger ones want like, they want like remote site monitors and then to groom them later.
I would like to say
Yeah.
that definitely what happened during the COVID, like the COVID scenario or whatever, there was the start of the boom in research, and CROs and sponsors were in such huge need that they were just taking applicants. And I know that there are some CROs out there that have already kind of slowed down on taking up remote site monitors and CRA1s, right? Because those are the ones that filled up very, very quickly. They're now focusing a little bit more on those with experience. However, a lot of people don't realize that so like at a site level, you would get clinical research coordinator. At CRO levels, they have clinical trial coordinators, right? And those are the ones that they don't expect, to have, they'll take you if they don't have any background. I've even heard of individuals that don't even have to have their full bachelor's, but as long as they have some experience in the clinical industry and clinical operations and things like that, they, again, if you interview well, you can still get in, right? And which is great because the things with the CROs and sponsors that because there's such a need and there's such a need for higher up, they're constantly checking in with you, especially if you're really great and when you get your foot in, they're constantly wanting to move you up further and further and further very, very fast, right? Should you, of course, be able to do that. So I always like to tell people that, even if you're looking for a certain position and you get 1 or 2 positions below, that's perfectly fine. You can move up very, very, very fast because of the way that the scenario is right now within the CROs. They need more upper management or higher levels. So they're constantly working the beginner levels to push them up further and promote them faster so that they can get that experience and exposure quicker. So definitely have them look at the remote site monitor, but I feel the ones that will be more open right now are clinical trial coordinators and CROs and sponsors.
Yeah, because we work with LabCorp, and I see a lot of the clinical, like it's research coordinators that are sending like regulatory items. It's not CRAs, and that I just started seeing that probably about a year now, where it's from a CRO company, but they're listed as research coordinators.
Yeah, and a lot of them they'll help handle regulatory or aspects of regulatory, and they'll also help with like the kind of like what a CRC will do in site, except for they're very like expanded at the site level, but they help a lot with the regulatory, the keeping of the track of the documents, etc., submitting to the monitors and all of that. Well, in the CRO's perspective, depending on which one, right? But I know in mine, the CTCs handle a lot of regulatory. They help the remote site monitors and CRAs on the backtrack with like amendments and keeping track of the documents in the ETMF and things like that. So it's a lot of good exposure. It's not as hands-on, obviously, as a CRC on site. But yeah.
Okay, thank you.
T asked me a question in the chat. So for those at bigger sites, how do you prevent yourself from becoming overly specialized? Or is it not something to worry about? This is a controversial topic. I personally think this is something to worry about. I think bigger sites, they're designed in a way, it's not done on purpose, but it's designed to maximize efficiency at the expense of you learning other tasks. So what does that do? It does nothing in the short term. Maybe it sounds great because your job's pretty easy, or streamlined at least. But when you try to move on, like usually from an AMC to private industry, you become untouchable. I've heard some hiring managers say people from this AMC are untouchable. We're not going to hire them because we know what the culture is there, and they're not going to fit well at IKEA or at PPD or wherever they're from. So it's the less time, unless you like it there, then there's no issue, or you like academia. But if you want to eventually like explore multiple possibilities within research, I think you need to get out of these streamlined places. It's just
It's
my
also, I
opinion.
think it's also good to mention that usually in those scenarios, because I was in public health after the position that I had in the hybrid research clinic. But I did work with UT Southwestern Medical Center, who is heavy and known for its Nobel laureates in research. And you do see that in the research centers, facilities, people really don't move from their position, right? People are like, they stay there. So for you to move up, you either have to completely move to different departments and really like mesh out, as opposed to if you were to be at a a site specifically outside of the academia or in the CRO, there's movement, right? You have room for movement. So yeah, it's just what Dan said for sure.
Yeah, I get a lot of hate on that one, but it's the truth. At least it's my truth. If it's not the truth.
I agree with Dan. I think if you can learn as much as you can in the various roles, then you'll have the opportunities to go into the different areas. If you stick to one thing only, you're not going to move around too much, and it's going to be
Yes,
harder to go somewhere else.
it's
Yeah.
gonna narrow so much your
Mhm.
possibilities.
Exactly.
And T raised their hand, so if you feel free if you want T to add more color or get this conversation going.
I guess it kind of got answered a bit. I was just wondering if your advice changed depending on if it was more site level or CRO level.
Yeah, no. Is it a AMC, Academic Medical Center?
No.
Okay. So this is another anecdotal example. There's a private CRO. They focus on phase 1. I honestly forgot their name. They're in Phoenix, and they do a lot of they used to do a lot of nicotine type of studies, so smoking cessation, but now they're doing different things with different nicotinic receptors. And people from there who work there, they have everything streamlined. So like you just do data entry, you just answer the queries, you just upload documents here. Like it's very streamlined. It makes it very efficient for them. But when they may give them a title like coordinator or whatever, but when they go interview at just a regular site, they usually don't get hired. And that's because of that streamline. So that's an example of like a non-AMC where the same problem still exists. So if you feel like you are in that situation and you do want to try other companies in the industry, I would try to see what you can do about that. Either internally talk to some people there and say, hey, can I be given more challenging tasks or just different responsibilities? Or if not, just try it elsewhere. It's a huge industry. You shouldn't be pigeonholed in just one area if that's not what you want.
And that was really helpful. Thank you all for expanding on that.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Thank you guys and gals for joining.
I was just going to say there's also opportunities within the vendors, right? Like tech vendors and things. So if you have like industry experience and you want to kind of venture out, I think there's some opportunities there that may exist.
Yeah, and the vendors are gonna run. I mean, we didn't talk about that till the end, but in about 10 years, I think the vendors, specifically Viva, is gonna be like more powerful than even IQVIA and PPD, because they've got a lot going on where they're digitizing everything, and they're gonna have the sites buy in. They already have the sponsor and CRO market, so now they're just gonna have the site market, and I think it's game over. Like once Viva gets their third act going. So yeah, the vendors, and they're gonna probably acquire a bunch of these smaller tech companies too, just like WCG IRB has been buying every IRB and God knows what else, like every other training program that exists. They even buy sites. So there's going to be a lot of consolidation in the tech space, especially now with the funding drying up from the venture capital, where you're going to have these established players taking over these money losing but still promising tech companies. Money burning. A recession
Yeah.
tends to do that. Recession tends to weed out the non-profitable companies, even though if they have good ideas.
I feel like that's a whole other topic too, for sure.
Oh yeah,
Definitely,
next month.
definitely. Yeah, next month, right?
No, we're not
Yeah.
gonna do that next
Oh.
month.
No,
Unless we
next
are, I don't know.
month.
Oh yes,
Next month,
introduce it,
now that
Monica.
now that everybody's here, next month we're gonna bring lawyers that are gonna be talking about immigration and possibilities. So highly recommended. We invite everybody. Please bring your questions. And I mean, why not,
If you
right?
know anybody that this would help, please let them know. We're gonna definitely be shooting out, email blasts. If you're not on our, lists or subscribe to our email list, please go to latinosinclinicalresearch.com, subscribe. We do not do any, spam or anything. It's only for the webinars. So please subscribe so you can get those updates. We actually have a lot of really great things coming down the pipeline that we know would be super beneficial for everybody. Especially, for those that are really trying to get into the industry and those that know it, people that are trying to get in.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm actually just a little teaser. When I spoke with them, they mentioned that research has a special, how can I say, like a special treatment or something like that when it comes to immigration, just because obviously I think part of it is the shortage, and I think also diversity. So we invite you for the next webinar.
Yeah, I think it's like skilled labor treated differently, but I'm not an attorney. But yeah, that's probably, yeah, I'll be on that one next month. And then we do have a Latinos in Clinical Research YouTube channel. We do have a Latinos in Clinical Research Instagram page. We have a Latinos in Clinical Research LinkedIn. Just connect with us on all those places so you don't miss the next webinar. I don't do every Latinos in Clinical Research webinar on my Clinical Trials Guru list. So if you're not subscribed to latinosinclinicalresearch.com, you might miss them because I don't do all of them there. So every month we'll do another one on here on Zoom. And again, it's open to everybody, not just Latinos.
For all ethnicities.
Everyone, yeah. So anyone else? Carla, nice to see you. You're on late, but it's all good. Speaking of Miami and speaking of somebody that works really hard and very knowledgeable is Carla Veranavas. Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thanks everybody.
Thank you,
We look
thank
forward to
you.
next month.
Yeah.
See everybody then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge and everything regarding these industries and everything. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
attending, everybody.